love.
Because black people, we love art.
Yes.
And that is why I feel like we have to always, in order for us to be really absolutely free, we have to be economically free.
So, because that's exactly what they did. They separate us from our culture.
Same person working in the same grocery store, but the difference is that they're black. And they go apply to the same bank for the same kind of mortgage. They will be declined. So
when the Bible is not about impressing people.
Well, I don't know.
Their parents was born around slavery time.
They still happen now.
No, in slavery, black people didn't have no rights.
Oh, I love that. You're so right.
Welcome to Chilling with the Chaplins. It's your boy LJ with the one and only my lovely wife, Lady Siza, in the building. Yes, we're about to vibe each and every week. You know what I'm saying? You know what you got us, so we like to jump right in with welcome to Sunday Funday, where we're all about learning, being informative, and having fun. And on that note, because it's Black History Month.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it
we are
is.
blacker than black.
Blacker than black. And so we decided.
The shortest month of the year, by the way.
The shortest month we own.
But it is the month of love.
It is the month of love.
Because black people, we love hard.
Yes, we love hard. And so because it's Black History Month, we say, you know what? Why not do a history?
A little history lesson.
A little history lesson on apartheid and South Africa. Apartheid and slavery. Since I'm American and she's South African. And yes, so
I like pointing to these flags because they represent.
Like we're in the right. Yes, so we will call this this episode slavery versus apartheid. And so let's get started with this episode, with this history lesson about apartheid and slavery. And so I would like to ask my wife, what is apartheid? What's the definition? What's the meaning? What is?
It's kind of the same thing as slavery, but this one, apartheid, was actually, I think, same thing as slavery though. I stand to be corrected. It was, I'm right. It was also, it's a policy that was put in place by a political party or a government, rather, that was in power at that time. And it was just mainly to separate people. It was more institutionalized separation, or if you like, you can call it racial segregation, that happened where people were forcefully separated as per race or color of your skin.
Okay.
In South Africa, whereas we've already spoken, we have the blacks,
The browns.
no,
The colors.
We don't have the browns.
The
We have
color.
the blacks.
The color.
We have the coloreds, yes, if you want to call them browns, but no, they're coloreds. Because it's not because it's like here, when you're colored, you're black as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so apartheid was a political policy of institutionalized separation, economic discrimination, which still exists, racial segregation, that was based on a person's skin color.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the whole main thing. It was based on a person's skin color that was enacted in South Africa in the 20th century.
20th century.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's slavery. So tell us
You mean that's apartheid?
That's apartheid, I'm sorry. So, you know what, but it's more or less the same thing.
Okay.
So what is slavery?
Slavery. Okay, now during our research, we came to the conclusion, what is slavery? Now, slavery is when a person is treated as the property of another person. Slaves were forced to work or else punished by the law. Now, coming up...
So work under horrible conditions, by the way.
So if you...
And mostly for free.
Yes, mostly for free. But, you come up to your own conclusions, about this definition of slavery, because, what we researched and came about is that when a person is treated as a property of another person, and we do still see today as people being treated, but they feel like they still own
you. Yeah.
They own you, either on your job, either with police officers mistreating the blacks, black men and black women, to arrest them.
But that's racism. That's systemic racism. But it does go hand in hand. You're
Yeah,
right.
that's it. Yeah, because
But it's not
still
necessarily slavery. Because
I know,
you're
but still, it's still like when a person is treated as the property of another, but they still treat that person as a property, because they feel like I own you, even as a police officer.
I have authority.
I have authority over you, so I can do. I have the right.
A certain race, because not all races are treated equally.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I mean by we know it's systemic racism, but they feel like, that I own you. Mm-hmm. So I got this shield and I can do what I want to do.
Right.
So that's what I mean, that they feel like they can mistreat the blacks in America because maybe they have authority or maybe they're afraid of us, but whatever it is, so but you come to your conclusion, are we still in slavery?
I think we are. Actually. That's my conclusion, because you look at the 9-to-5 system, especially the United States. In fact, I think the world is governed by this system. Capitalism, you name it. That forces people to be in it, and that's why it's so hard to break out of it when you're even trying to be in business, because the system that was created will always draw you back in, because you have to always be enslaved. And the people that created the system see people. That's why we have 98% of people who are poor, because it's a system that was created, right? Mm-hmm. And because people have to work the system. If the people that are not working these low-paid jobs, then who would build these countries, right? Yes. Who will benefit the most when there's nobody down there working for these people who are benefiting the most? And that is why I feel like we have to always, in order for us to be really absolutely free, we have to be economically free. That's the only freedom that's out there. You can call yourself free all you like, because now we are able to vote. We are able to live in the same neighborhoods. Mm-hmm. The dream that Martin Luther had, we kind of living it, but it's not complete when 99% of the minorities, in the United States. It's still not economically free.
We don't still own our own land, right. Our own property. We still rent. The majority of us, majority of black people is still renting, right. Even though they getting more educated now, but they still, and
we know why we know why black people are more renting. We know that. And I always ask myself this question. You meet a person, a white person who, we're just going to be real today, okay?
Yes.
We're going to be a 100, and we're not going to filter anything, so bear with us. So if I meet a white person working in a grocery store, mm-hmm. and they live in a suburb, for example, West Orange in our case, in the area that we neighbor.
Or South Orange,
like an affluent
mm-hmm.
neighborhood. Let's rather say that, because some people won't know these neighborhoods.
Yes.
An affluent neighborhood. This person works at a grocery store, and we know that they earning the minimum wage.
Wages.
But of course, to get a mortgage, you have to go to the bank, because mm-hmm. very few people have the full amount to pay down for a house.
Yes.
Right. So you go to the bank and to get a mortgage, and guess what? They get it. They qualify automatically. Why? Because of their skin color. You take the same person, but who's black or brown. We're talking about the United States for now, and the same thing happens in South Africa as well. Even though blacks in South Africa are the majority, but let's just talk the United States. Same person working in the same grocery store, but the difference is that they're black. And they go apply to the same bank for the same kind of mortgage, they will be declined, because the system is embedded.
It's broken.
that we have what we call the KYC, know your client. That's just for the black people. That should I give this to a black person or not? The credit is probably, the black person might come in with better credit than the white person, but because of their skin color, it automatically you're going to be segregated and know you belong to East Orange because your kind lives there and that's what you can afford. But we're working the same job. And I always ask myself this question, that how is that still happening in the 21st century? It means that both these terms that we're talking about, they still exist.
Yes. And you're not free until you're economically free.
Absolutely.
And you own land, because that's the only thing that you're able to create generational wealth.
But
own the property.
Ownership of
anything. So that you want to begin to not be economically free. You got to be in ownership. And so they like, okay, you get the education, but you still renting. And they don't tell you.
My point was that, whenever you're doing something like the terms that we are trying to explain today, they still very much in existence.
It's still in existence.
And they just embedded in the system.
Yes.
Right.
But there are ways for you to get houses. But I want to ask my wife, because we want to move on from that subject, from that point. Where did the name apartheid came from?
Well, it's actually derived from the Afrikaans, which is a racial group. Like you have the Zulus, you have the Xhosas, so we have Afrikaners. Afrikaans are the white people in South Africa who speak the language Afrikaans. So they named after their their racial grouping, and of course they derived from the colonizers who were from Dutch. So that's why you'll find that Afrikaans is very similar to Dutch. If you know Dutch, you will definitely know Afrikaans. It's very similar because they originally came from Dutch and colonized South Africa, and then they took over and became Afrikaners at that time. So this name comes from one of their words called apartness. Apartness, like separate, and or separate development. So even the word itself just tells you that they knew what they were doing. They called it apartheid because they were there to separate everything, black from white. Yeah,
and it's same, because like I said, they did the same thing with like you say, it was basically it was nothing new under the sun, because that's the same thing that they did with Africans when they took African American people from slavery.
Of course, they got the idea from the United States. Listen, the world gets a lot of ideas from this country.
So because that's exactly what they did. They separate us from our culture. Because we are the only we are the only race that we can't go back to Africa and know our ancestors. Why? Because we don't have our ancestors' name. We don't have our ancestors' names, so we can't go back to Africa and never know who our ancestors is, because nobody in Africa is Chaplin or Ralph.
And then you get called
or Benjamin or Springs. This is all your appropriate names. So we're the only race that cannot go back and find it
and claim your heritage.
Why? So they stripped us. They stripped us for everything. And when we try to
call you African American,
and then when we try to stand up, they beat us. They no, what's your name? No, what's your name?
What's your name?
Forced them to say a name that he didn't want to say. Why? Because they was doing that to strip them, to make them feel like, no, that's not your name. Your name, what we call it, and even today, and that's why a lot of times, even as black people, sometimes we are afraid to move and we are afraid to go forward because we been brainwashed. The moment we try to make us brainwashed. The moment we try to move forward or get ahead in our mind, you know what? Something gonna happen. That they're gonna strip us. They're gonna do something. They're gonna take it away some way. And so we're afraid.
Already in our minds, as black people, especially African Americans or Black Americans, you've already been stripped of your identity and your origin.
Yes, and origin.
And I really feel sorry for Black Americans, because they are like a wandering nation, because they really don't know who really they are. They created their own culture, yes. But we know that they originate from Africa, but where?
And you can't really trust. You can't really trust. Yeah, I was gonna say.
They white people and just try to get money from you.
You can't trust. They can say anything, They can, but you don't
but
really
we
know for
that
sure.
most of them come from. Most slaves were coming from West Africa.
Thank you, Holy Ghost. It's just like this century. You know what? You know the psychics. You know the psychic. They just guessing, or they feel like they know.
You think the Holy Ghost told you that?
I'm just saying though, it just came to me. I know. I'm just saying, it just came to me.
Anyways, so that you made such a profound
just like
statement.
the Black Wall Street, when they was building up, what happened? They got burnt down. Why? Because they feel like because we can't have them grow. So the moment we grow, we gotta do something to take it away from them. So because they can't be better than us.
And you see,
they can't be stronger than us.
You see, even in like successful Black people, it takes a lot for them to actually rise. You look at, I'm not for what Bill Cosby did, but the minute he wanted to buy
the national radio station, the national television station,
then they started bombarding him and painting him like a really bad man, where you have so many white men who've done exactly what he's done. And I'm not condoning what they've done, okay, because they've been proven that they did it, right? But what I'm saying is, why couldn't these allegations come up before he wanted to become the first Black man to own a TV station?
A TV station.
So
national TV station.
TV. Every time a Black person tries to do something, unfortunately, they're being suppressed. We covered a series on YouTube, highest earners. Don't tell me that there's no Black person who started a YouTube channel in 2000 or 2010 that could not be a high earner.
A high earner, yeah.
In the top 10, not one Black person came up. And we hear from the grapevine that maybe not YouTube, but TikTok and other social medias, they select.
Yes, because they had this red button. they had this red button that they
want to promote. And
so are you really going viral?
Are you really going viral? And you
find people really seeing
your
content.
Go viral for the wrong reasons. You don't go viral for good things. You go viral for things that are embarrassing in most cases.
Yes.
So this thing is really still above us. It's still on us.
It's still on us.
Yeah.
And so we have to begin to change the mentality, because the only way we can fix this is by us, understanding, educating ourselves to notice. And so
I will ask you the same question. What does the name slavery, do you know where it derives from, where it comes from? What does it mean?
Yes. Now this was interesting, because slavery or slave came from, it's an origin word, slave. And the reason why slave came about, because slave was it was a large Eastern Europe population. Eastern Europe population. I'm trying to get the words out.
And I just want to finish it for him, man. I just
be patient. I stutter sometimes from time to time. But there was the Eastern European population, and which was enslaved, and their name was Slab. That's who they was. That's who they was called.
Just like Zulus.
Yeah, just like
Zulu, and then they suddenly changed the name Zulu to whatever that went with.
Yeah, so because they came and made the slaves, when slavery came. So we're like, oh, you know what? Since it's the same thing, we because they were like the original slaves.
Original slaves, from they were taken from this Eastern European countries, and
they was taken by the Muslims,
by
Muslims of Spain, and during the 9th century AD.
So that's a long
time. 9th century AD, was a long time ago, and because their root name was Slav, you know, when they took slaves from the African continent, you know, they oh, you know what? Just
call it
just
slavery.
a slave because
already.
that's the yeah, since it was the name was already there, so they just added E.
How lazy.
How lazy.
Yeah, so that was an interesting thing to learn actually. Yes. That you know nobody was creative in that manner. But anyways.
Yes, and I would like to ask you, where did apartheid started?
When? All right. So apartheid, it's a pretty young thing. You know, it's been around for a while. It's actually the policy was put into
practice,
okay, in 1948, or legislated. I wanted to use a big word.
Okay.
You know, it's legislated in South Africa formally in 1948 by, of course, the then white ruling party, which was the National Party, and it was just all white national. So they call them the National Party, and which led, you know, to decades. I said decades. It took such a long time of brutal oppression of black people by this white regime. And the sad part is that in South Africa, this is where we differ between America and South Africa, is that in South Africa, black people are the majority and were the majority even then. But somehow the white party
brainwash
came into power, and they broke everything down and said, you have no rights anymore. You are second-class citizens. You will hear what we say. We own you. You do what we say. You will serve us. I mean, just thinking about it makes me boil. How do you come into somebody's continent, country? It's like coming into somebody's home and saying,
invade it.
And saying you no longer have the right to this home. I'm going to be your boss. You're going to serve me. In fact, by you serving me, I will pay you above your living wage. Or if I like, I don't pay you. And in fact, if I like your wife, I will even rape her.
That's the same thing that they did to us.
That is really hectic stuff. You know, we might laugh about it, but thinking about it, it's really
sad
and hectic.
And you know what too, the sad part is that for them to do all this bad stuff, they also quote the Bible. And they also put the Bible in it.
And that's why most people will tell you, well, not most, but some people will tell you that a Bible is a white man's book.
Yeah.
Because how do you put in something
exactly something terrible, yes.
You know, in part of the book.
Yeah, and then quote it and put to free us, they put to give us encouragement, they put to inspire us.
And they
but
use
here
the
it is.
Bible.
That's what I'm saying. They use the Bible to impress, suppress.
To brainwash.
They use that part of the scripture to suppress.
So
when the Bible is not about impressing people.
Well, I don't know.
The Bible is not about impressing.
I don't know. I'm married to a pastor. I call myself a Christian, but I don't know.
That's not the purpose.
No.
The purpose is to love one another.
You think that don't you think that the Bible actually is a tool to brainwash people, especially black people? Because when we get saved, we go deep. I mean, we become so spiritual about everything. Oh, like how you just said, oh, thank you, Holy Ghost. Like, I don't see Holy Ghost around here.
Hey, no, I can feel him.
I'm just saying.
I'm
just saying. I just made an example that's practical right now. But I'm just saying that, you know, we spiritualize absolutely everything, and things that don't even need to be spiritualized. Some things just need common sense.
Yeah,
you know?
I agree.
And so my feeling is, yes, I love the Bible. Yes, I read the Bible, but some scriptures, they make you raise your brows.
They do. But it's not meant to press God's people. It's meant to lift them up.
Why did they make Jesus white? Is Jesus really white?
Oh, that's a good question. That's a good question.
Maybe those the black Jews that claim to be the original nation. Maybe they are.
Maybe.
Maybe the first person was actually black, but because information like this was
Wasn't around.
well, it was around, but it was buried,
Very.
or it was hidden from us.
Mm-hmm.
We now all believe that white people are more superior than us. And that's why, as black people, we do black on black hate, because we've made to hate ourselves so much that
we disregard the next person that devalue each other.
This is deeper than deep.
Deeper than deep. Deeper than deep.
Anyways, so I was still talking about when it started. So it started in 1948, and this is over 75 years. Okay, so we're not even in 100 years in. So I would say it ended in 46 years ago, around 94, and we'll explain later. But did it really end?
Did it really end? That's a good question. That's a good question.
And I'll say, when did slavery start?
When did slavery start? Now it's very old. Throughout the 17th and 18th century, people was kidnapped. That's a nice way of saying it. I'm not gonna say kidnapped. I'm gonna say something harder, because they wasn't just kidnapped. They was taken or snatched or robbed.
Well, kidnapped is actually the right term.
I'm trying to see something harder, because I'm like, that's a nice way of saying kidnap when they was actually stripped.
Kidnap means taken without your permission.
Okay, I guess. But they were stripped. The word I would use probably stripped from their culture. They just wasn't kidnapped and taken. They was stripped from everything they knew. So that's the word I would use. They were stripped. They wasn't just kidnapped.
Forcefully, maybe.
Forcefully stripped.
Yeah, or forcefully kidnapped.
Everything. Forcefully kidnapped.
I don't think anybody ever agrees to being kidnapped. So.
No. But yeah, they
were
stripped.
I get what you're trying to say.
Yeah, they were stripped from their culture, from their way of life, from their way of doing things. They were stripped, for everything. Their names were changed, everything. So they was kidnapped from the continent of Africa, forced into slavery in the American colonies, and exploited to work in the production of crops such as tobacco and cotton. And also, like she's talking about too, sleeping with our women.
And your parents went through some part of slavery.
Not my parents.
They lived in the South.
Not my parents.
But your mother was a
sharecropper. She wasn't a slave. Slavery was over.
So it's different.
Different.
So sharecropping continued after slavery.
Yes, sharecroppers. They're still working in the field, but now they just gave it the title sharecropping.
Paid minimum wage.
Minimum wage, which was like 25 cents.
Their parents were slaves.
25 cents a day. Not her parents.
Okay.
Probably her grandparents. Her grandparents. Because my grandmother was born in 1908. So her mother probably was born
1908.
1908. My grandmother was born in 1908. My grandfather was born in 1902. 1902, 1903, one of them. So their parents was born around slavery time, around 1970, 1980. So it probably was over. So it was probably my great great that was in slavery. So 3 generations.
But they still felt the
yeah, they still felt it because it just was over. Yeah, they still
just like how I felt apartheid, although I was born in the 80s and it ended in the 90s, but I felt it.
But when it's over, you were still a kid.
Yeah, but I still felt it.
Yeah.
I still felt it. Because I remember going to the beach with my grandmother, and she'd be like, no, we are not allowed to go in that one, but we'll go to this one, because there were beaches for non-whites or blacks and whites only. There were parks that we were not allowed to walk into, whites only, blacks only. they are public transportation that we're not allowed, similar things that I think the Americans went through.
But slavery started in 1619. That's 400 years ago, and I want to say the same thing like when you were talking about, are we really free? Even though it happened, and that y'all 70 years, us over 400 years.
Can you imagine?
And are we still free? We can be free physically, but a lot of times it's not even physically. Some things we are coming back, but a lot of us, most of it, physical is not the problem. What's the thing that matters most is your mental.
Yeah. They did a good job.
They've done a great job.
Because
they've done a great job.
The people that they brainwashed
they've done a great job.
They are long dead, but they knew that if they brainwashed like those people, it will go generational to be a generational thing. And that's why we have to break these generational curses.
Yes.
Because that brainwashing was a curse. That you're not allowed to do this. You're so restricted. Restricted.
Yes. Now we know that slavery, now Oregon, Alabama, Tennessee, and Vermont, they still had these laws that they could have slaves, and then last year they removed it.
Well, they put it in the ballots.
Yeah.
I'm not sure
to remove it,
but to remove that loophole.
That loophole that they.
But I wonder if people voted against it. I really wonder, because you never know.
Yes, you never know. Now you mentioned some of it because we want to move on. You mentioned some of it about the examples. So I would like to ask you, what are some examples of apartheid?
Before we go into those examples, we'd like to say to you, if you're not a subscriber of this channel, we urge you and we really would love for you to subscribe, be an official member, and also press the notification button so every time we upload a short or a video, you're able to see it. And to those who are already subscribers, we appreciate you and we thank you so much for being part of the family. But don't just subscribe. Also, share this video so that more people are able to see it, because our videos are mostly educational and we develop self-development but not just that. Make sure to like and to write a comment. We hardly see your comments, guys. Come on. We'd love to read them. Just write that comment and like so that it spreads the message.
Yes. So
and on that note,
what are the examples of apartheid?
Like you said, I've already mentioned some of them, but it was for apartheid. It was the initial point was separation, right? To create neighborhoods where people were segregated. So we had places for blacks, which we call the hood or the townships, still exist. Mainly black people. We have a few white people here and there who can't afford to live in the suburbs or who are married to
same.
But you know that you don't want to be there. But anyways, it is what it is. And also these neighborhoods that black people or non-whites were put into, they were highly impoverished. You can even see it right now that so they put them here. You saw our hoods. It's mostly 4-roomed houses, very small, very closely built together. Because you were not allowed to have a yard, and if you do, it's like a very small yard. The bathroom was outside. It's like really, it was just basic survival. And of course, they removed people from places of affluence, where close to the ocean and things that were preferably best for white people, and were pushed out on the outskirts of the cities and stuff like that. And these places were overcrowded, and they still are. And they lack access to good education and jobs. Which I think we share with the American brothers and sisters. And it makes me wonder why Americans think they're better than Africans.
We don't think that no more.
We sure do. When
we've been brainwashed.
So give us examples of slavery.
You know what? It's not really examples, because some of these things wasn't in slavery.
They still happen now.
No, in slavery, Black people didn't have no rights.
Oh, I love that. You're so right.
They had no rights.
They were objects.
They were objects.
They were not even seen as humans.
Yeah,
because they were seen as property.
All this stuff happened after slavery. The separation of living neighborhoods. But in slavery, they had no rights.
But they were separated. They were not allowed to live among the whites.
No. Okay, but still, you still live on a farm. You still live on their
property.
No, they didn't call it property. Oh my God, sanitation. What I don't know. They compound. Okay. They compound. What is it? I can't think of the name. But it's like a compound.
Right.
So you were living on their compound. You know. But you ain't really had no rights. You did what they want to do. You walk. You wake up. You work their farms and all that kind of stuff, and then
you're their property.
You fix their property. You do all that kind of stuff, and you don't want to do it. They beat you, or they kill you, or they lynch you. That's the example of slavery. And you know, if you don't do it, you get lynched. If you don't do it, you get raped. If we want your women, if we want your women, we take your women. That's what the example. That's the example of slavery. Either you got murder, you got killed, you got lynched.
Murder and kill is the same thing.
I know. I'm just saying you got lynched. Or if we want your women, we take it. And you
work for free.
And you work for free, as well as we tell you when to mate with your female, like you're an animal.
Wow.
We tell you when you should mate, and then once you finish making, you go back to where you was doing.
Wow.
So they didn't even live that's who was separated, husband and wife. Husband and wife was separated.
Because you know what? They knew one of the fundamentals
and then they sold
human needs, which was belonging and security. So they stripped us of all those basic needs that a human need, and that's why we ended up not seeing ourselves even as humans, we saw ourselves as objects.
And that's why we still, a lot of time, the way how we think today, you know, we still had that mentality as
and that's why it's so important to continue to
educate.
Educate, but also to celebrate Black excellence. Because when you become successful as a Black person, just know that it took a lot.
It took a lot, yes, it took a lot, and we still fighting today. Yeah. So the last point that I would like to add: how was slavery resolved? How was apartheid resolved?
Okay, so we had the appointment of a president called F.W. de Klerk, who was the last white president at the time of this ruling party. The appointment of F.W. de Klerk, who was the president in 1989 at the time, he brought forward these positive changes. F.W. de Klerk was actually a white president of the National Party that I spoke about. And just as a side note, the National Party does no longer exist, but they made an alternative called DA, but it has Black people now. It has mixed race, but it was formerly the National Party, and this president dismantled the system of apartheid that was legally enforced since 1948, right? And de Klerk then released political prisoners. One of them was, we all know as Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela.
Huh? Come on, say that again.
Nelson.
Okay.
That was not his real name.
Nelson was not his real name. No, that's an English name.
It was not even his legal name.
Okay.
He was given to by a teacher who just didn't want to pronounce his real name.
Yeah.
He never had an English name.
He never had an English name.
But because the people like you didn't want to say Holy Siza.
You're right. You had to say that.
Holy Siza.
Yeah, because I would never say it.
Because he doesn't want to say my maiden name. I would
have gave a nickname.
See what I mean?
If I'm not putting that's what we do. Black folks do.
Because that's what was done to you guys, and you were giving you this Chaplin. Who the hell is Chaplin?
We give nicknames.
Which was devaluing the person's not even name. but identity.
Identity, that's
See?
true.
Yeah, but Nelson Mandela went to prison for 27 years, and then he was released by this FW de Klerk, which led to Nelson Mandela being the first black democratically elected president in 1994 for South Africa.
Yes.
So the story ends well, but the question is, are we free even after so many years of being in a democratic state? We're not. And the question comes back to you.
Yes. How slavery was resolved.
Yeah, or ended.
Now, we did discuss this in our previous episode when we were talking about Juneteenth and 4th of July. June 16. Yeah, June 16 and Juneteenth. We will show the episode on the screen. We will show on the screen. So yeah, on September 22nd, 1862, Abraham Lincoln, which was the president at that time, issued a preliminary Emancipation Proclamation. Thank you for correcting. Emancipation Proclamation. And on January 1st, 1863, he made it official that slaves within any state. So January 1st, 1863, he made it official, right? Okay, so every state, they had to free the slaves. We know the 4 states never changed it, which was Alabama, Oregon, Tennessee, and Vermont. Those 4 states always kept it in their books because they was hoping maybe that slavery was gonna come back.
But I hear from the grapevine that there are states probably those that still practice slavery.
Slavery, yes, it's probably still states. And another thing too. Now, 1863 was official, but we know 2 years later in 1865 on June 19.
Oh, okay.
June 19 is when people in Texas was finally got the announcement.
It was hidden for 2 years.
It was hidden for 2 years that, you know what, we're free. So, and you gotta release the people, and you know what, now you're free, and then no more slavery. So this is where June 19 came about, because June 19 is when these people in Texas, I believe, was made free in 1865.
And
June
the rest
19,
of the
1865.
rest
And
of
that was
the
the end.
states.
Yes, and that was the end. And that was the end of slavery. But like my wife said, are we really free?
That's the question.
That's the question.
Yes, and hope you learned something from that, because we learned a lot while we're going through those notes and just doing some research. If there's anything that you disagree with, we respect your opinion. This is what we just thought we could share. And yes, we also have this episodes on our audio visuals. Okay, so if you can actually listen to both, see us on YouTube and listen to us on the audios. So excuse me, and it's available on all audio platforms. And this podcast was I'm sorry, something is choking me. Sponsored by
Next Opportunity Window. Yes, it's just a great community where we can continue our development, continue our learning, and we're able to connect with like-minded individuals. That's what it's all about, connecting, growing with like-minded individuals. We have daily theme, quarterly masterminds, weekly lunch and learns, and monthly webinars, so that we're able to continue our education and growing and development. Like I said, there's 2 ways that you can be a part of the Next Opportunity Window community. One, you could do a monthly subscription as well as an annual subscription. But before you you have to pay. We do give you a 14 trial offer before the subscriptions kicked in. So you want to be a part of the community where We are learning, we growing, we are developing, we are improving ourselves. We say join. There's no other community like it, and you get direct access of us. Now, here's the thing in the community, right? If now you hire me as a coach, 1-on-1, you're gonna pay over $5,000. But guess what? Because I'm all about helping people and helping others grow. You join the community, you get access to me. Instead of paying $5,000 one time, you're only paying $59 on a monthly basis, or $399 a year, and you have total access of myself, and not just myself, of my wife, for $59.99 or $399. And guess what? And we coaching you inside the community. We training you.
His slavery.
We're still training, we're still coaching. So we said definitely join the community where growth happen. We thank you for, and you can follow us, right?
At Chilling with the Chaplins.
Chilling with the Chaplins.
Or you can follow us individually. Follow me at Lady Siza1 on Instagram
and Get Inspired by LJ. And are you okay?
I'll be fine. I'll catch you to water just after.
Yes. So we thank you. I think that's it. My wife needs to drink some water right now. And like I said, we say take care. And we see you on the next video. Bye.
Bye-bye.